Hello, everybody. You are tuned into Non-Wealth. My name is Nell.
And my name is Lebu. Today we have a really interesting topic that we'd like to talk about, right? How do I actually invest in property at such a young age?
True. Is it too young to actually be thinking about can I join the property game, or can I strategically position myself so when that right age comes through, I'm ready to actually get in, man?
Man, this is a common question that we have been getting. So now today we thought that this is the perfect time to actually talk about this. We have actually reached 1000 subscribers, and if you can actually check out our videos, we have been giving you something different, right? We have been giving you a view of what we have seen from our community. Hope that you really have really enjoyed that. And today we just want to have a chat with you.
Point number one, what I'd like to actually stress about is documenting everything. I mean, when we're talking about documenting everything, we're speaking about before actually buying the property,
Yeah.
during the property, whatever that's going on, even after the results. So now you have to have a template whereby you are going to run those numbers whereby, okay, let's say you are going to identify different several properties, and then you're going to compare those properties, which one will actually be more investable, if one should say. And then once you get that property, you are actually going to document all your expenses and all your income so that you can actually get an understanding of how are the numbers actually, how are they relating with the actual property itself. And then once you're done with this property, like let's say you want to dispose it, sell it, then you also have to document that so that for future reference you can always refer back to this document whereby you documented your portfolio accordingly to what happened.
I mean, this is writing the smallest detail in your book, right? So now this is going to be something like a journal. This is where you actually going to be writing down how long did it take you to actually buy the first property? What did you do in the first negotiation phases? So now in that way, that actually helps you to be able to actually look back and see what you were actually doing. Because now what happens is that when you're going through that property deal, every day you're actually going into that property deal, you have different emotions that are always evoked. So now by the time you are at the end of the process, you might have forgot the small details that you actually went through throughout the process. So now what we'd really like you to do actually is to write down your particular journey within your property industry. So now that gives you a bit of feel of how you would actually go into the next property.
True. I mean, sometimes it gets so exciting, Lips. You get so overwhelmed. Like, I just bought my first property. I've got the keys. I got the keys. I got the keys. And then you forget totally about documenting everything. Because what helps is that you are able, once you document everything, you're able to reflect on the mistakes that you did, or if what you should actually be looking out onto the next property, man.
I mean, looking at the property that we just got right now, the hardest thing that we actually had to go through is that it really took us a lot of time to actually register this property into our name, right? So now this is something that we have actually written down, something that we will take into consideration the next time we're actually buying a property.
True. And now with number two is return on investment.
The
With
R, the O, and the I.
with return on investment, it's quite interesting. I mean, this is one of the most important calculations with regards to property investing. With regards to property investing. So now once you get to understand the importance of return on investment, that's when you know how much are you getting in return in comparison to how much you actually put in. So now if I should give you a classic example, if I'm going to be going to a bank and I'll be investing in a particular financial vehicle or in a particular investment, they're going to tell me that you'll be earning so much money, and the percentage towards this money is sitting around about this. So now if I am going to be taking out my money from the bank and I'll be investing it into a property, I need to know, I need to be like 100% sure that this is the return on investment that I'll be projecting. Because now this will actually encourage me. This will give me that motivation so that I'm confident to take out that money, irrespective of the bank charges that will be there, and put it in this financial vehicle, which is property. Because I know, for instance, if my bank promised me 3% annually, and I know for sure that this property of mine will give me 20% annually, I think it's a no-brainer. I think it's a no-brainer, man.
I think that's something that I always want you to remember, right? If you are actually going into the property, even if you do have the money, just think about it as if I was to go to an investor and say, Mr. Investor, I'd like to invest this money. Would you want to actually join me? If the answer is yes, then go for it. But if the answer is maybe, then do not go for it, right? Because now when you are going to an investor and going to ask for them to actually invest in this particular property that you've recently purchased, right? They're going to want to know how hard is my money actually going to work for me, right? And then if my return on investment is actually lower than what I'm getting at the bank right now, it wouldn't make sense for me to actually take out everything that I have in the bank, get bank charges, after there, put my money back into the bank, also get another bank charges, and have a lower rate than what I am currently getting. So now every time when you actually go into a deal, just think about it as, would an investor actually invest in this particular property? I mean, it's really easy to actually buy a bad deal, right? I'll repeat that. It's really easy for you to actually buy a bad deal. So now you want to make sure that you have checked all the corners. Hey, things do happen, right? Things do happen whereby you're actually going to buy a property and then there were more bad things about that particular property. Then you might make maybe a small loss or maybe not such a good gain. But now it would be better for you to be actually proactive in running your numbers and being able to see what you are actually dealing with before you actually buy this particular property.
And with return on investment, I think it's very important that you become, I mean, we all want to become millionaires. Or man, even better, we all want to become billionaires. But we need to be realistic in that approach.
Yes.
So it's pointless for me knowing that, oh, wow, you're wearing a blazer today. You are Mr. Investor. I'm going to say, hey, Mr. Investor, I got something for you. I got this house and it's going to give you 200% return on investment. It's actually pointless because what will be happening is that in future reference, when I'll be having a potential deal and I know that this time I'm serious about the numbers, he won't even think twice. So you need to be as realistic as possible. Do not try to cut on expenses so much to the point. And as property investors, you do need to be cost efficient, but don't cut too much to the point whereby I want to push this return on investment so much that I want to impress Mr. Investor.
Because now remember, something what might happen is that you might try to do a cut cost in terms of your electricity, only to find out that when you actually have to sell the property back, you'd need a COC, right?
Sure.
That's a certificate of compliance in that particular property. And if you do not have that certificate, you can't actually sell that particular property. So make sure that with everything that you're doing, I'm always emphasizing that with everything that you're doing, get a team of experts for them to actually help you in whatever that you're doing, right?
I mean, the example that you just made, the one of the electrician guys. I mean, imagine trying to get guys. Let's say your quotation was about 10,000 for fixing the electricity on this particular property, and then you were like, "No, man, I know the boys. I know boys that can come through at 30% of this amount," only to find out that what they did was wrong. So now that means that when the compliance officer is gonna come through, they'll be like, "Nope. It's not compliant. It doesn't actually meet the criteria. Therefore, that means you have to waste time again. Call the correct guys this time. Or I don't know. Do you want to chance? Do you want to take another chance?
That's a double dosage. Eh? That's a double dosage.
So what you don't want to do is that you don't want to find yourself in that situation, calling guys again or calling the correct guys this time and wasting more time on that matter that you could have done correctly the first time.
I mean, let's take it to a worst case scenario, right? Let's think about the worst case scenario. Say, for instance, you do get the low contractors, right? And they do not know what they're actually doing. Then it becomes a fault in the electricity that they're actually wiring there, right? That could actually burn the whole place down. You don't want to go through that.
I was
So
hoping
now,
that you're not going to go there. That time you didn't even have insurance.
make sure that you always get experts on your particular team. And then the last one that we actually wanted to talk about is walking properties, right?
Sure.
So now, what do we mean by walking properties? I mean, I think in our career right now we have walked more than 50 properties. Is it safe to say 50? We actually have walked more than 50 properties. So now when walking a lot of properties, it actually gives you a different perspective other than actually buying the first property that you actually see. This is going to be like shopping, right?
Sure.
When you're looking for a blazer, right? You don't just go into the first shop that you see that sells blazers, right? You need to go around and see what is in the market, right? Because now what happens is that a lot of people do not have a full pipeline, right? And when you're only looking at this one deal being the only deal that you might have, you might run into a problem in terms of negotiating the price, probably too low, and then the buyer doesn't say, okay, I can actually sell it to you, or having to push your price up because you bought the property at a very high uh, level. So now always make sure that you always shopping for property. Shop for property before you actually buy the first property that you're actually going to buy.
True. I mean, shopping for properties should be exactly as shopping. I mean, if I was to ask you how many times have you actually went shopping in your life? You'd be like, man, I lost count. So because now we're pushing property as a business and this is our full-time hustle, we know that we need to actually be on the ground. We need to be attending auctions. We need to be actually going to view these properties. Now, what I like about going to view properties is that you get a different perspective every time. For instance, you get to actually broaden your perspective in terms of one property will be different from the other. Your strategy for multi-let will not be the same for one apartment or a freestanding. So now once you actually get to do that, you familiarize yourself even with the area, the pricing range, and also the lingo with regards to actually connecting with your estate agents. So walking properties, especially for first time investors, or if you're still young and you want to get the game, you want to actually understand how the game is actually run, just run properties because it's the most practical. What I love about that is it's practical. It's practical and I can learn on the ground. And you're not forced to actually buy. Once you go to that house and you go view, you're not forced to buy that property.
So now just go to the property, view the property, see if you can actually negotiate between yourself and the estate agent, then go for it, man. After you have actually walked properties.
Non-wealth, guys, we really appreciate your support, man. We really do appreciate your support. We don't actually try. We make sure that the content that we put out is relevant and you can actually relate to it because we find so much pride in bringing value towards your property journey every week on a Thursday.
No, well.
Signing out.